Hey guys, if you're enjoying our videos, don't forget,
Like and subscribe below. Hey guys, it's Z and Charles. We are back again. And if you see us in the car, we are currently on a road trip without the kiddos. Yay, parents. And then that brought us to childcare, right? We were able to do this road trip because we have childcare. And I thought it would be an interesting conversation to talk about our journey with childcare and kind of the pros and cons of different types of childcare. I'll let Charles probably start off with the experience with childcare.
So I became a single parent in August of 2020. That was when my wife passed. She's the mother of our two oldest children, the ones that they're 7 and 6 now. And so when that happened, I had to figure out a childcare solution pretty fast. And initially, I found a family friend who was interested in coming and being a nanny, to come and help out with the children on a daily basis. And so I started out with her as a nanny, and eventually she kind of moved in because she lost her living situation, and so she and her two kids moved into my house, which turned out to be a very interesting situation.
How old were the kiddos at this time when this was going on?
Yeah, so the kids were 3 and 2.
Okay. Okay.
The kids
You
were
were
three.
still working full time and
Yeah, so I was, excuse me. So I've been working from home since 2019, full time. So yeah, so at that point in time, I was working at home full time. Had the family friend who was working as the nanny living upstairs with her two kids, and she was taking care of the 3-year-old, the 2-year-old on a daily basis. And at that time, they were both going to preschool, so they were like 3 and 2-year-old preschool, so not quite VPK yet. And that situation lasted for the better part of a year, maybe 8 months. Um, what I found was problematic with that situation was that since she had been a family friend back when my wife had been alive, she had opinions about how I should be living my life. And so especially when I moved on, when I started dating,
like me.
yeah. And when Z came in the picture, um, it was a little bit difficult. She had difficulty finding her way through that situation. So eventually we had to part ways. And then I was a little bit in the lurch trying to figure out, how to care for these two young children. And so I went to a friend who he and his wife had been using the au pair program for a lot of years. He works full time, and his wife's a physician, and so I think they'd had au pairs for the better part of 5 years, and they kind of introduced me to what that program was all about. And so the au pair program is a program by the State Department where they let people come in. Generally, they're between the ages of 18 and 27, I think. And they come in from other countries, specific countries that we have agreements with. It's like,
Such as Colombia, there's Mexico, there's South Africa, there's Italy, there's France. I think a few more countries there. Yeah.
and what happens is these folks who want to come in, they're allowed to come in for a year program, and they have the option to extend possibly up to another year. But what they do while they're here is they live with you, and you take care of their room and board and all that kind of stuff, and they in turn take care of your kids for a certain number of hours a week, and more or less they can replace daycare. is what I found. And plus they do other things like they clean your kids' rooms, they take care of their laundry, things like that. So it's really a lot more than what you get out of just having a daycare.
Okay, you went to the pros. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, and then it brings up though, what are the cons for you with having an au pair? You talked about a second ago of some of the pros.
So the con, of course, is having somebody who's not part of your family living in your house. Um, which,
Yeah, so let's talk on that
yeah,
point. So currently we have, and I don't know if you just mentioned this, we have two au pairs, right? And we have a second story, and our home was technically what, 4 bedrooms?
yep,
And we had to create a fifth bedroom upstairs to accommodate two au pairs. And you might be saying, why do you need two au pairs? Well, we have 3 kiddos. We had initially one au pair for our 7 and 6 year old. And then within the last year, we welcomed another little bundle of joy. And we didn't want to take away from the older kids and their experience. You know, they are in karate, they go to playgrounds, and it would be hard for one au pair to manage 3 kids, especially when 2 kids are drastically older and very active in comparison to the younger child. So we made the decision to get two au pairs. With that, though, having two au pairs, it's not only the space in your home having that, but it's also the amount of food that we buy, right? That's a big thing for us, right? The amount of, washing that goes on. Of course, more people need some more electricity, more water use. And
the extra car.
the extra car, right? We have an additional car that we provide for our au pairs to use for their personal use.
Now you don't have to do that, but some things that you do make it easier for you to match with folks because when they come over here to this country, uh, they don't want to just be watching your kids.
Yeah.
They're coming over to see
They want
their,
experience. These are
yeah,
like 20-something-year-old girls, and they don't want to rely on you to take them everywhere, or Uber. It's kind of nice for them to have that independence. I think
yeah.
I would want that. So on the weekends, they can go out to the beach, they can go to the mall, whatever it is. So we provide that. And actually, talking about that with the car, we actually had our first experience with one of our au pairs getting into an accident. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? So anyway, well, let's start with this. We were sitting at the table, and Charles gets a phone call, and I'm like, what's going on? And he says, the au pair's got into an accident. And go. What happened?
Which this has been what I've been scared of all the time because in order for them to drive, initially you've got to get them a driver's license, and then they have to get on your insurance. And if you didn't know, when you put somebody in their 20s, in their early 20s on your insurance goes way up. So this has been something that I'd always been worried about. Like, what happens if they get in an accident? Well, the other day they got into an accident.
My heart dropped, by the way. Like, I didn't know anything what was going on. I didn't know if the car was total. I knew they were alive, right? Because we got the phone call.
They were okay, by the way. They were
Yes,
okay.
yeah. But anyway, what happened when you made your way out to the car accident scene?
Yeah, so we got really lucky. It didn't start lucky though. So what happened was they had been on a 2-lane road, and a car in front of them had stopped quickly for an emergency vehicle coming the other direction. I didn't even know that if an emergency vehicle is coming the other direction, you're supposed to stop. Apparently, they knew this, so they stopped. And this was 2 cars in front of them. The car stopped suddenly, and then the car in front of them stopped. They weren't able to stop fast enough, so they hit the car in front of them, which hit the car in front of them. And so when I came out there's the 2 cars that have been hit, and our girls are at fault for the accident. There's the police officer out there, and so the first thing I'm thinking is we're never going to be able to get insurance again. This is going to be crazy. And so the first thing I did is I looked at their cars, their cars weren't too bad. It was a bumper on the back, a bumper on the front, and just a little bit of paint. Maybe like one car had a little ding in the quarter panel. And so the first thing I do, I go up, start talking to the drivers, and start working a deal to pay for their cars. And after like an hour and a half, we were able to come to a deal and transfer some money and get all that taken care of. I didn't even realize this, that if you do that, they don't make a police report, and then it doesn't go to your insurance company, assuming that nobody ends up reporting it to the insurance
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like we kind of dodged a bullet on that one. But yeah, so that was
So
something that
yeah,
happened
that's
just
just
the
an
other day.
experience, or our first experience with the accident with the au pairs. And it's kind of like when you're talking about the au pairs, as Charles was saying, there's a lot of pros to it, right? The cultural exchange. They're usually younger, very energetic, and can be active with the kiddos. But on the other side of that, too, talking about that accident, it's almost like you have a big child. And for us with younger children, that's kind of, I think, the approach that we have. Yes, they're not our children, they're from other countries, but with them living in our household, taking care of our children, it kind of becomes like an extended family member. They're kind of like a big sister to our kiddos. You were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that once you get used to the program, you get used to having somebody, who's not part of your family at dinner every night, and you get used to having somebody around who's a little bit older. Um, you kind of get into a lifestyle. I would say it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, I don't know. There's still moments where I'm not fully comfortable, but I think it's just an introvert in me. I can get very overwhelmed quickly with too much people. Besides like our immediate family, like Charles and the kiddos, sometimes other, family members, um, I can get overwhelmed, much less au pair. So that's still something I think that I'm adjusting to. But, we need the childcare.
Yeah, and overall, and for us, where we can't really get a lot of family support
Yeah.
with our kids, this is just the best way to go. It's way better than daycare. Provides a lot more support at home than you would get.
Yeah, let's talk about that. At least for the younger one, he's now 10 months. We thought about possibly daycare. But when looking at the pros and the cons of it, I think having an au pair just for the baby outweighs the cons. With daycare, it's only Monday. Sorry, guys, we got you leaning and swaying. With daycare, it's only a Monday to Friday thing. And with the au pair, not only is it one-on-one playtime and reading, but they do laundry, they do bottles, they help organize the room, and the hours are longer, right? With daycare, if your child has a quote unquote fever, right, of like 99 degrees, which you guys is not a true fever, right? You have to take your kid out, right? And with the au pair, they're taking care of your kid out, whether they're sick or not. So you get a wider array of services, for lack of a better term, with an au pair compared to a daycare. At some point, though, I think for our little one, we are going to put him into daycare probably around the age of 2, because I do think socialization with other peers is important. But right now, at 10 months, I didn't really think it was worth it, right? I know daycare's a little bit cheaper, but I feel like there's so much more that we get with him having an au pair. What are your thoughts?
He gets so much out of the outdoor situation. I take breaks from my work and come out, and they're rolling around the living room, playing, or she's working with him on walking. He gets attention 8 hours a day, every day from one person. It's amazing. I would highly recommend it for a young baby.
Yeah, and that was my thing when Charles and I were talking, was that I wanted for his first year if we didn't have to, and I understand a lot of people have to do that for finances or whatever reason, can't do the au pair. But if we could afford it and had the space to accommodate it, I really wanted him to have an au pair just for him. And it's great. She reads, as Charles says, plays, she makes his food, washes his clothes, gives him baths. And what I like too, we've had a really good experience, I think, with all of our au pairs, and particularly the ones with for the baby. We've had two au pairs for him now. And what I really appreciated about them was that they took ownership. And when I say take ownership of the baby, I don't mean that the baby's an object, but they took initiative. They kind of treat the baby as if it was their little baby, which is what you want out of someone, right? You know, holding him, kissing him, you know, playing with them, even when they're not quote unquote on the clock, like they have to work, you know, they're coming up and playing with the baby. And those are the things that I've loved thus far about the au pair program. Now, for me, there's certain aspects, like sometimes, you know, they're not always the cleanest, and I have to give them a little bit of leeway, right? Because they're 19, 20, 22. But I think most of the au pairs that we've had have been pretty receptive to feedback, you
Yeah.
know, on how to do things, and they try to correct. So that is a good thing. There's work, definitely, but they're usually pretty receptive to make change from our experience.
Absolutely. And also, you have to keep in mind there's a lot of there are a lot of bad host families out there too.
Yeah.
So
Well,
some
we've heard some stories.
yeah.
I think someone was telling us about sleeping outside.
Right, right,
It's
right.
not funny. I'm just laughing because I'm like, that story just sounds so out of this world. But
Yeah, you don't want to get into the program if the intent is to treat them like employees.
yeah,
No, I mean, it's like to us, it's like having an older child who is with you, who lives with you, and takes care of your kids.
yeah. You should. I feel like, at least from where I'm coming from, we try to make them feel a part of the family, right? So we invite them to have dinner with us. You know, if they need any kind of snacks or certain foods, we try to make sure that we get that from the grocery store. When they're first coming to the house, we try to give them a nice room and sheets and towels. We really want them to feel a part of the family, right? Because not only are they taking care of our child, but we want to make sure they have a good experience, right? I think that should be the goal, not only good childcare, but you want them to feel comfortable in your household.
And I've really come to appreciate the cultural exchange part of the program.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I know that initially we were driven to the program because we needed the childcare, but then after being in the program for 4+ years, I've come to see like the little things. These girls, they're from Colombia, Argentina,
Yeah, it's where our
Brazil,
yeah, Brazil, South Africa, yeah.
and it's amazing. Over in those places, they've grown up watching Disney. They've grown up watching some of the same programs that we have over here, and they come over here and they're so excited about our culture. Getting to take one of my favorite things is taking the girls to Disney, because they always want to go to Disney World.
Yeah.
And that's so awesome. And also, we learn about their culture. I think tonight they're making the kids arepas, or not arepas, empanadas.
Empanada.
They're doing empanadas tonight. And so,
They've
yeah.
done, what's the one from, with the Nutella, the one from France, what's that called?
Oh, she did crepes.
Crepes, they've done crepes. We've had an au pair from South Africa. Was it a rice that she made, or was it a chicken?
I'm trying to remember what it was.
Yeah, but whatever it was good. Trust us, okay? So yeah, it's just been an amazing experience from that, and to see their perspective of the world, from where they're from, and hear about their cultural experiences. I think it's a great opportunity for our kiddos, right, to have that exposure, especially because our kids are not quite at the age where we're doing, a lot of traveling,
Like family
especially
trips.
outside of the country. This gives them an insight into what other cultures are like, right? And so sometimes they're learning Spanish or trying to learn Zulu or things like that. So that's really been a great experience for us. Well, guys, we just want to give you a little, or do a little chit chat about our experience with childcare, because I feel like I never knew until I became a parent how critical it is, right? We're able to do our date nights, we're able to do this road trip, how important childcare has been for us. And yes, there's ups and downs to it, but I think it's something that we would continue with. We're going to continue with for the next few years. What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. It's like I said, it's become kind of part of our lifestyle at this point.
Yeah.
And, once you get used to it, it's something that really benefits you and it benefits your kids.
On that note, we're headed on out. Talk to you guys later.